While one side is blaming radical Islamic terrorism for the attack, the other hitting the NRA and pushing for new gun control rules. That's got investors buying up shares of gun stocks this morning. These stocks have also been huge winners during the Obama administration. All this as we're learning the Orlando shooter legally purchased guns despite red flags by the FBI. The Democratic Congressman Ted Deutch who's calling on Congress to act. Congressman Deutch, what exactly do you want to see Congress do in response to this latest mass killing in America?
Well, it's good to be with you, and let me just start by saying this isn't an either-or situation. Of course we need to focus on terrorism. We need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to fight terrorism and to prevent people from being radicalized. Of course that we're doing that. But at the same time, we can take action to make our communities safer. The fact is, right now, there's no way that the federal government can prevent someone who's on the terror watch list from buying a gun. None. That can change, and we ought to do that this week.
You do realize, though, sir, when these things happen, it feels like the people responsible, in this particular case, someone who really felt deeply about radical Islam and the need to go out and murder certain people according to his religion or his view of his religion, and you put the onus on inanimate objects and guns and people's rights in the Second Amendment, you can understand why a lot of Americans recoil that it feels like the Democratic Party in particular is not really looking at the reality of what's happening in this world, particularly in America.
No, I actually don't agree at all. And the fact is, there is overwhelming support to do what I'm saying. This isn't about grabbing people's guns. This isn't about changing the Second Amendment. This simply says that someone who is on the terrorist watch list, a dangerous terrorist, should not be able to purchase a gun, shouldn't be able to purchase an assault rifle. I would love for you to tell me why we should take the position of the terrorists, why we should side with those who want to do great harm against our community and make it impossible for the federal government to prevent them from getting assault weapons.
What a lot of people have said is that they feel that these lists that somehow end up getting the average ordinary citizens end up on these lists way too often as opposed to people who pose a real threat. So ultimately what we're talking about is usurping or taking away the rights of average Americans who follow the law. This is really a distrust about the bureaucracy. And by the way, when you say something like assault rifle, again, people say this is the hyperbolic way that the left takes these issues and again starts to put the focus on an inanimate object.
There is nothing hyperbolic. First of all, this inanimate object was responsible in the hands of this terrorist.
In the hands of a human being who was determined to do harm.
This inanimate object in the hands of this terrorist was responsible for the deaths of 49 people and over 50 who were injured. They didn't just die because the terrorist walked into this club. They died because they were pumped full of bullets from a weapon that was designed for maximum killing. And your concern about people being incorrectly placed on the terror watch list
I'll tell you what I'm concerned about, sir.
Let me just finish.
I'll be honest. I'm concerned.
The legislation already gives people the ability to challenge if they think they shouldn't be on the list.
Speaking of being challenged, I'm concerned that none of those 100 people that were pumped with lead had the opportunity to fire back, that none of them had an opportunity to defend themselves, and that there's so many people in this country, whether it's radical Islamic terrorism or the neighborhood thugs who terrorize them every single day and can't fight back.
Well, I don't understand the suggestion. If you're saying that it's okay for a terrorist to have a gun as long as everyone around him has guns, I just think that that's an absurd statement. The fact is, if the federal government can prevent terrorists from getting assault rifles, then we ought to do it and we ought to pass it. And by the way, you keep referring to the way people characterize my position. Over 70% of NRA members think that if you're on the terror watch list, you shouldn't be able to get a gun. It's indefensible. Your position that terrorists should be able to buy assault rifles and grenades and any kind of weapons is just indefensible.
In the real world, bad people are dead
and whether it's terrorists or drug dealers or whoever else
always get their hands on weapons. They always have access to these weapons, and it's the victims, it's the average citizen who's precluded from owning them, and you want to take this even further and take away the rights from people. It's a slippery slope, we know, but I think people understand where you're going with this.
You're mischaracterizing what I'm saying. I'm saying that people on the terror watch list should not be able to buy guns. That's all I'm saying. There are lots of other debates that we can have. I'd be happy to engage in. But this week, my God, after this terrorist gunned down 49 people and injured over 50 more, let's make sure that other terrorists who are on the terror watch list can't get their hands on these kinds of weapons. That's all I'm saying. And by the way, when the assault weapons ban passed in 1994, Ronald Reagan, someone whose credentials I think can't be questioned, certainly not by our viewers, he made it clear, he acknowledged that we're not going to stop every kind of mass shooting. We're not going to get all of the assault weapons off the street,
right,
but we need to do what we can to limit their availability. This is one small step. Let's just be clear. Terrorists, people who are a danger to our community, should not have access to these kinds of weapons or any weapons.
We all agree on that.
We all agree on that.
I just also believe that.
Let's pass the legislation this week to make it the case.
I think we all agree on that, but I think we also have to be honest about access to these weapons and perhaps the ability of Americans to defend themselves as well. Sir, thank you very much.
Let's keep the guns out of terrorists' hands. Why don't we do that this week and respect the memory of those who were slaughtered?
Representative Deutch, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.